On Tuesday evening in our church this week, we had a blue Christmas service. A service that didn't need to be jolly, didn't need to be hopeful and expectant and full of the happiness that seems forced in the season. And we had a handful of people come to sit to pray together using words that are part of a liturgy, which I'm happy to share with anyone who wants to look at it. A service that I think is the most important service of the season for us. We think of our carol service and Christmas Day as the big moments, but actually perhaps our Blue Christmas service on Tuesday evening was far more about where people are and for those for whom it really matters, an opportunity to bring something other than happiness and jolliness to bear in this season. So I want to share with you what I shared that evening. It's not long, and it's adapted because it's not specific to that evening, but this is what I shared. We read Ecclesiastes chapter 3, the first 13 verses, I think, about different seasons in life, and then we read Luke's Gospel, chapter 1, from verses 39 to 48, the beginning of Mary's journey towards giving birth to Jesus, and the first part of what's called the Magnificat, her song with her cousin Elizabeth, where she proclaims what God is doing. So wherever we are, whoever we're with, we are with others in our secret selves. Whatever we may know about anyone else who's in the room with us is only what can be seen on the surface, or perhaps something deeper glimpsed or shared. No matter how long we've known someone, each of us sit with our secret selves. Our inner lives are solitary places that we can only really communicate in small parts, and even then, words, if that's what we offer, are just small windows into ourselves. And there are so many things that are simply beyond words. We bring with us into all of life and many days all kinds of different experiences, losses and disappointments, fears and worries, perhaps even trauma. Hope and joy may be there too, but they're not center stage always, nor do they need to be on Christmas or birthdays or any of those arbitrary days that come along when they come along. They don't need to be center stage. Nor have we failed in any way because they are not on Christmas or any other time. Christmas does seem to bring with it the pressure to be jolly. And the jolly man in the red suit, well, no matter how hopeful we are, that cannot take away or even suspend for a time sometimes our conflicted or difficult feelings about life, about love, about others, about ourselves, about faith. The hope and expectation in the story of the birth of Jesus may for you feel just as far away this year. So many of our difficulties in life are rooted in how we feel about ourselves, even as we tell ourselves who and how we should be as we face grief, loss, struggles with mental health, or any other difficult season that lasts however long. So I don't want to talk too much about how we might feel, but about what we do with how we feel about how we feel. Because no matter what circumstances we're in, if they're difficult, part of the wrestling is with whatever's happening. And I know from many conversations that a part of the wrestling is with how we feel about ourselves as we wrestle, and what we think we should be doing or feeling. Lots of judgment, quite often. So I'm grateful to Nadia Boltz-Weber. She's an ordained Lutheran pastor in Colorado. For some of the words that follow, she wrote a piece that I read this week, which I've adapted a little bit, but her words are powerful. When Mary sings of God in the Magnificat, she doesn't say that God looks with favor on her virtue. She doesn't say that God has looked with favor on her activity, on her busyness, on her responsibility. She doesn't say that God looks with favor on all that she's got right, or the fact that she's tried really hard, that she's finally become some ideal version of herself. She says, God has looked with favor on my lowliness. My lowliness. Now, I've known the word lowly for a very long time because of lowly worm in Richard Scarry's children's books. It's a significant word in this and every season. We obsess about our flaws and shortcomings. We berate ourselves for our failings and defects of character, for not trying hard enough to become our ideal selves, for not being brave or strong according to our own expected standard in the face of difficulty, a standard that we do not usually impose on anyone else, perish the thought, but a standard that we set for ourselves. But our failings and our weaknesses and our mistakes, by whatever measure, are God's perfect entry points. See, it is in our lowliness and our humility, not our strength and our so-called virtues, where God does God's very best work, in us and through us. Nadia puts it this way, quite bluntly. She says, I wonder if perhaps our obsession with self-improvement is really just a form of atheism disguised as spirituality. I wonder if perhaps our obsession with self-improvement is really just a form of atheism disguised as spirituality. Some think that to be in a right relationship with God is to make ourselves so righteous or good or woke that we never need to bother God for help, which means that if we progressively sanctify ourselves, improve ourselves, hold standards out to ourselves and meet them, the good news is that we won't even really need grace. But for many people, for those who suffer from addiction and mental illness, for those with unprocessed trauma, for the poor and the poor of spirit, for the incarcerated, those in prison, and all who live in a desperation that precludes, doesn't make room for the delusion of self-sufficiency. We know that right relationship with God is actually knowing just how much in need of grace we are. And grace is not undeserved forgiveness. Grace isn't contrition on our part and God's forgiving heart, tolerating us, loving us, celebrating us at best with one eye shut. Grace is God's solidarity with us in all of life. God's presence in everything. Often hard to find, hard to see, often only seen in hindsight, or because we are surprised by love. And we're surprised by care from unexpected directions, sometimes from faces we'd given up on, even our own. Which means if you are lowly in this life, or if you struggle with your flaws, your memories, your regrets, your expectation of who you should be by now, and what you should be like, and what you should be good at, the things that make you weak, the mistakes you keep making, well, that's good news. If you've set yourself high standards that deny some of your humanity, minimizing the possibility of experiencing compassion and permission to be you from yourself, never mind anyone else, the story of the entry of God into the world in Jesus is good news, because grace is yours, not in your striving or your performing or your standing up to a standard that you've set for yourself. Even in our real failures, grace is ours. God's solidarity, God's presence, God's love for us, just as we are, is ours. And it's ours to bring to birth all that can come from our lowliness, all that can come through our lowliness, all that can come because of our lowliness. Part of the promise to Mary in the initial visit of the angel Gabriel, as we read it in this passage, is unavoidable pain. Unavoidable pain. The suffering that walks hand in hand with joy and all that love brings to us. So in response, having pondered these words on her way to her cousin's house, there are radical words in the mouth of Mary. My soul magnifies the Lord, for God has looked with favor on the lowliness of his servant. Maybe to paraphrase that, my blemished, messy, incomplete and lowly soul is a lens that enlarges love and grace. This is God's partnership with us. And these are God's point of entry into the world. love and grace mean nothing if they're not experienced and they're not shared. They're not ideas. They are things we know and we experience, or they're not. And these are words, Mary's words, that are everyone's to find, everyone's to take hold of, everyone's to live. My soul magnifies the Lord, for God has looked with favour on the lowliness of his servant. Who I am right now shines a light on God, enlarges God. My blemished, messy, incomplete, lowly soul is a lens that enlarges love and grace. So as you journey through this Christmas, or if you're watching this afterwards, think about the new year and making resolutions, and 2023, another arbitrary day that comes along, the 1st of January, just decided that it fits in here in our life, and comes to us with the opportunity to live in the positive symbolism of letting go of what's past and looking to the future, but also it can come with an enormous pressure to step up, to perform, to be someone we might not be able to be. Not yet. So as you ponder Mary's words, as you dare to believe that your soul magnifies the Lord, that God looks with favour on your lowliness, may God bless you as you do so, and may you have companions, good companions on the journey. So the playlist of videos we used during the service is available on our church's YouTube page, just called Blue Christmas 22. The song we listened to and the video we watched immediately after I'd shared these thoughts is in a link at the end of this video, called You Say by Lauren Daigle, performed by Wendell Huckabee. I suggest you watch it. It's very powerful, and it says all that I've tried to say in much less time. Bless you.